Here we go. And we are live. What's up, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, C. Muzan. I got Kabi in the building. Say what's up, man.
What up, though? Shout out
Man,
Detroit.
it's just the thing. Every show, we're gonna shout out Detroit. We need a following. Detroit fans, hit us up. Like we might need to take the show on the road
That's
and do
right.
and do a live in Detroit. Just
Detroit. State. See, it's because we're men of the people,
that's right.
right? Detroit represents that segment of the population that gets overlooked, right?
Mm,
That gets overlooked. But see, Detroit keeps fighting and they got pride. The Lions keep losing and they still keep cheering them on. The Pistons have been won since Rasheed Wallace was there, and they still
mm,
stand strong. You see, they move the Pistons and they still do good. You know, Detroit
mm,
is cold and they still walk around like ooh,
mm.
ooh, right? That's why Detroit's the perfect city, right? Never been there, never been there, right?
Never been, but
You
it's the
know,
perfect city nonetheless.
that's right. That's right. Every time. That's right. Hey, stand up, Detroit.
There we go.
You
The
know,
B,
and shout
the
out D
B.
Rose, J Rose, even though I disagree with you when it comes to certain things, but that's all right. Most of the time we
Mm.
agree. J Rose, come on, man. What happened on Jeopardy? What happened on Jeopardy?
What happened on Jeopardy? I didn't even hear you.
Oh man, let's just say it wasn't good. It
He
wasn't good.
he was on Jeopardy.
Yeah, he was on Celebrity Jeopardy,
Mm,
doing a little show, a little win whatever for the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. That's
mm,
why you have to represent the man. You know, going back to the city, giving back to the people, putting up an educational establishment out of nothing. I really respect that. You know, gotta educate the people.
that's right.
Uh, however, my man Jay Rose did not do very well. It didn't go very well, and yeah, he was at negative like 1,300, and it's all right though. It's all right
It's
because I
not all
think he
right.
still won 30K for the school.
Really? So he just went on there
Yeah,
just to get it. Didn't have to win.
let's.
He just got in there.
I will say this: I do feel after seeing a couple of the clips, I do feel like they set up Jay Rose to not do so well. You know,
You
I
think
feel
it was
like
a
that's what happened.
setup?
It
You think
was
it
a
was a
setup.
hit?
It was a setup. It wasn't a hit, but it was a setup. It wasn't a hit, but it was a setup. Now, could Jacoby have prepped him a little bit better? He could have. He could have.
Hmm.
Because I've seen that man on what's that show with Steve Harvey?
Family Feud.
Yeah, I've seen him on Family Feud, and Jacoby's fantastic.
Well, listen, Family Feud and Jeopardy are in two different leagues. Like
That's right.
Family Feud, anyone can win Family Feud.
I don't know if anybody
No,
can win Family Feud.
anybody can win Family Feud.
You think so?
Family Feud is like it's like a common sense game. It's like a
Mm,
because think of the game. We surveyed the top 100 people. So if you just have a basic understanding of like what people might think about, it's kind of common sense. Jeopardy, on the other hand, takes real knowledge. Like you've had to read an encyclopedia at some point to do well, or be crushing it at trivia because a lot of Jeopardy is trivia stuff, and some people just aren't good at trivia. But Family Feud is a completely different game, sir. And
you might be right. You
yeah,
might be right. I feel like you're good at Family Feud if you watch a lot of reality TV per se,
mm,
and you might be good at Jeopardy if read a lot of statistics and keep up with maybe not statistics, but keep up with things that quote unquote educated people know about.
sure,
And it
yeah,
could be anywhere. Like you could go one day and they have three categories on sports, and Jalen Rose would have crushed it.
I know.
You
But
know,
unfortunately, he did not, and
that's right.
it's not a good look for his school unless he walked
No,
away
it's
with the
not.
bag. If he walked away with the
30,
bag, then cool.
30, 30.
Yeah,
It's not bad.
but outside of
It's
that,
not,
it's not a good look that
it's not bad. It's not bad.
your founder gets negative 13 on Jeopardy,
Hey,
negative 1300.
we still love Jay Rose though. We still love Jay Rose.
Detroit.
Stand up. What up though? See, I don't have any other cities, so I got to pick one. And you know what? I'll pick Detroit. Pick
Man,
Detroit.
home team. Just so everyone knows, I don't know if any of our listeners or any of our followers know what I rep. Philly all
What do
day.
you will?
All day. Can you see that? That says 215. Can you see that?
Why'd you do that, man?
Because there's no place
Why'd you
like
do that?
home. It's a special
Philly.
city. City of brotherly
Philly.
love.
Come
Gave me
on.
gave me everything I had.
Come on.
Everything I needed to grow up and be okay. And be okay. I was good. It prepared me for life. It
All right.
prepared me. At 18, I moved to a whole new city
Yeah.
by myself and
Yeah.
I
What city did you
survived.
move to?
Miami.
Why don't you rep Miami?
Because I was only there for college. I was only there for 5 years. And it was cool, but it wasn't like home. It wasn't
5 years.
yeah, it wasn't
That's a
home.
pretty long time to pick up a city.
It is. It is. But listen,
Where'd you go after that?
Southern California.
What is
So
that? Well, that's not a city. What is Southern California? What is that?
so we started because it groups it all together. Because when we
What's
first
what's the main
listen,
city? What's the main
well,
city?
we started in LA, right? We
Okay,
started,
so LA.
but that's where we started. We were only there for a year and a half, and then we moved to like Monrovia, which is like I
Mahu?
think Monrovia. It's like what is it, San Gabriel Valley? It's outside of Pasadena. So that's not technically LA, but like it's Southern California. And then by the time we left, we wound up getting to like Ontario, Rancho Cucamonga out in the Inland Empire.
You
Which
sure that's
again,
not Canada?
no, bro, didn't you just moved out? Like you'll get with the lingo. You'll understand,
This is
right?
true. I only rep. I only really stay in the proper spots.
What does that mean?
It means I say Bay Area, but I was in San Francisco. I can't even claim Oakland. I can't. That's why I don't. Right?
Yeah,
I was in San
area.
Francisco for 6 years. Bay Area. Although I appreciate that. That's why I can't claim it. I'm in LA. That's where I am. I'm not in Monrovia or wherever else or Kakakuchamonga.
Rancho Cucamonga. It's in Friday. It's in the movie Friday.
I'm sorry. That's why I don't claim it, bro. I don't know it.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. It's shameful. It's shameful.
Anyway, Philly 215, stand up. Right. It is what it is.
Only other place I could claim is Richmond, 804.
804. Okay. I see Richmond. Richmond, VA, stand up.
That's right. That's right. That's the only other place I could possibly claim.
That's good.
But we'll talk about that another time.
Another time, another day. Shout out to everybody all across the country, but for real, Philly, Detroit, Miami area. Stand up.
Yeah, wherever you're listening from. Let us know where you're listening from. I'd love to know. Where are you listening from? Put a chat somewhere, do something. Let us know where you're listening from. I'd love to know.
Something. What are we talking about tonight, though?
Tonight, we're getting back to the fundamentals. We're getting back to the roots. We're getting back to the basics. We're breaking it down. 1 + 1 = 2, not 3, Jerry Jones. Stop that. That's billionaire math. We're going to help you get to billionaire math. Or one now, we're getting back to the basics of health, the basics of wealth. What are the fundamentals that people are skipping over that we need to pay attention to? The 20% that gets us to 80%, right? The simple steps. That's what we're talking about today. And we're going to dive in on both sides of the matter, health game, wealth game, and break it down a little bit. And we're going to actually, keep it very simple.
Simplicity is key, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. And you guys know this that have been watching and listening to us for some time. We try to make it as simple as possible. Try to break it down to the easiest, simplest manner for you to be able to follow to improve your life or improve your health or improve your wealth. But oftentimes we get to this place where we try to skip steps. And Kabir and I talked about this, I think last episode, just we want to start to give you more of the non-sexy things of health and wealth. The things that, like Kabir said, the 20% that gives you 80% of the results. That's the stuff that's not sexy. That's the stuff that really, honestly, most people don't want to do. But yet it's the most important stuff. So let's dive into it, man.
Let's do it. Listen, let's break it down on the health side. For the health side, it's funny because you hear a lot of new folks that are coming out, whether it be as my man coughs up along here, but man, make sure you get some water, make sure you stay strong out there. This is the dedication we have. Not feeling great, still showing up for work. You still show up for work.
Dying over here. It doesn't matter. We got commitments. We make happen.
That's right. Hembo not even gonna cut that out. We appreciate you, Hembo. But on the health side, man, I think it really comes down to I call it just 10 principles to focus on to optimize for vitality, performance, and aesthetics. So what does that mean in plain English? What are the 10 things that we need to do on a day-to-day basis, focus on a day-to-day basis to have all the energy we need to have, we want to have to perform at our best, whether it's in our daily life, whether it's in some sort of competition, whether it's in right, you want to perform, right? You want to get do what you want to do.
Mhm.
And then aesthetics, which is to look our best, because we know health comes down to that. I was actually reading some articles today on just dermatology and a lot of Western dermatology. To take a little tangent,
Mm.
focuses on uses drugs to suppress skin conditions, whereas you know we should really be focusing on what are the roots of these skin conditions, where are they coming from, allow them to take its course, meaning to protect, perhaps speed up its course, and so that it can be solved and solved for good
Mm.
rather than suppressed. So we'll talk about that, probably a conversation for another day. But what are the 10 principles, right? What are the things that we focus on to for optimize vitality, performance, and aesthetics? And you really have 10 things. And you'll see these all over the place, right? Whether you're reading, I have behind me a whole bunch of books there on the bottom two shelves on health. And as the more I read, the more I research, the more I talk, the more I listen to interviews, read articles, scholarly articles, etc., the more I realize that you can continue to categorize these things into these 10 principles. You could probably even go lower than 10 principles, but I think 10 is right about where we stand.
Mm.
To feel our best, to look our best, and to do our best
Mm.
comes down to these 10 things. And it's not necessarily that new drug, it's not necessarily that new particular food, it's not necessarily that new way of making your bed or twirling your thumb. I mean, there's all types of stuff that comes out, man. You read current health articles and it's like this new drug may make your left toe bigger, like it's just like all types of nonsense out there, man.
That's
I'm
funny.
not saying any of that stuff isn't, if you want to check it out, feel free to do so. But let's not lose sight of the 80% or the 20% that gets us 80% of the results. So we're gonna just touch on these 10 principles real quick on the health side.
Love it. Are you giving them?
Oh, you want me to? I thought you wanted to give them a preview. What's going on the other side?
Oh,
No,
okay. If you want the preview on the wealth side, I thought you were gonna dive right in. I was looking forward to it. I was like, oh, 10, let's go.
Yeah, let's leave
Right.
them
I'm
in.
thinking
You
about
know
it.
what? We can do right there. We'll do it. We'll do it that way. Let's
We'll
dive
come
into
back
them 10.
around. Yeah, we'll come back around to the wealth side. Give people everything they need on the health side so they can get focused on it. And we'll come
Sure,
back around on the wealth side.
sure. To me, it comes down to number one, breath. And to just we can go a pretty long time without sleep. We can go a pretty long time without water. We can go a pretty long time without sun, food, etc. Other people, movement or working out. Relative to breath, right? If we hold our breath for, I believe it's like 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, however long, it's not very long, and we start to have big problems.
Hmm.
We also have big problems due to our quality, the way we breathe, how much we're able to, how much of the air that we take in, the oxygen that we take in, we're able to utilize, how much we're able to stand carbon dioxide buildup in our system, our breathing apparatus, all these different things cause all there's an entire industries
Hmm.
around this stuff. And so it's incredibly important, how we breathe. We receive nutrients from breath as well. It's not just from food, it's from breath. So breath would be number one.
That's huge,
If
man. Let
if
me. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, last thing here, to kind of beat it in a little bit. If you are religious, from the Christian side, right? The passage in Genesis says he breathed into us the breath of life,
Hmm.
right? We all talk about the breath of life. If you talk about athletes, right, their ability to breathe, not just to breathe, but to utilize the breath that they take in, there's a very high correlation between their ability to utilize the breath and their ability to perform.
Hmm.
Um, bre- Breathing, you talk about your skin breathing. I mean, it's everywhere when we look at it. So breathing will be the first principle, not necessarily in order, but if I had to put it in order, I'll put breathing up top.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, bro, that's huge because when I didn't know the importance of breath until I met you,
Mm.
right? Until we started really going down that path. One of the big exercises of like sleeping and breathing out of your nose and not out of your mouth,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah.
was something that I had to like kind of train myself to do. And even now, right, it's not fully natural, especially being a little sick and getting some nasal congestion and stuff, and
You
makes
appreciate it now, don't you?
exactly, right? Like you really understand, like, oh man, I wish I could breathe out of my nose. Like this is, and you would bring home points like, when we come out of the womb, right? Like, yeah, we might cry and get some oxygen, but in general, like babies keep their mouth closed and they breathe out of their nose, right? Like that's how we come into the world. So for not understanding how important this one part was huge in my own personal like kind of health journey. And for everybody that's listening, again, just paying attention to this type of stuff. As simple as it is, as simple as your breath is, if you could dive deep into it, you'll see the impacts that it's making in your health.
And we talk about this being a basic, right? And this is something you have an issue with, or maybe you've never really thought about. I would suggest picking up the book Oxygen Advantage. And to give you
Mm,
an idea, Oxygen Advantage talks about the secret to your health, wealth, to your health, fitness, and overall well-being lies in breathing, which is
mm,
overlooked, right? And developing body strength while ignoring breathing is almost counterproductive. So I would pick up that book and let me read this little quick paragraph right here, short little paragraph. Oxygen Advantage is about breathing to improve oxygen uptake, along with specific breath holding techniques to stimulate high altitude training. Having a higher anaerobic and aerobic capability allows us to do more with less. And that's the key right there. It's not necessarily, I think there's a lot of focus on, until I really dove into this, is a lot of focus on breathing more, taking in more oxygen. Oxygen Advantage talks about doing more with what we already have, and I think it's incredibly important that people kind of make this switch, and it's really not too difficult. That's the big thing. It's
mm.
not too difficult to do some of these simple exercises, but you got to do them consistently, and that's the principle number one right there. Breath.
Awesome. Awesome. Going. Number
Principle
two.
number two: sleep.
Mm,
Sleep. This is one that I think out of all of these, this is probably the one I struggle with the most. My brain tends to run at 100 miles an hour all the time. So when it's time to sleep, it doesn't necessarily want to go to sleep. So it's something I have to be very conscious of. But sleep, I believe, and I've said this before in some podcast some time ago. I believe the world of dreams or the world of sleep is actually our natural realm. And
mm,
if you imagine that being our natural realm, this being kind of our artificial realm, we in a way have to kind of play tag, like go back to that realm to recoup. There's got to be a movie like this. I feel like there's a movie like this, but you go back to that world to kind of recharge, recoup your energy. And
mm,
if you don't do that enough when you're in this realm, you stay in this realm too long, you can actually um, easily drain your energy in this world. So you start to kind of malfunction.
mm,
Dreams, sleep is where you synthesize information. Sleep is where you recover physically. Sleep is where you receive, you're rejuvenated, um, restored, and recovered.
mhm.
And so it's incredibly important. And I don't think it's, again, the quantity of sleep. There is a minimum quantity, I believe, but I don't think it's that's the big thing. I think it's
Sure.
the
Sure.
quality of sleep. And there, again, huge industry around sleep. whether it's sleeping pills or medications,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's mattress. You notice the price of mattresses going up over the years, man?
I have not looked at a mattress in a very long time.
Oh, you might want to consider that, sir.
I'm,
But
I might I might.
yeah, mattresses are going crazy, and not just that, but also think about just like a house, right? We
Mm-hmm.
take that for granted. Like that wasn't always necessarily the thing. People used to maybe much longer ago be on the move a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
or sleep outside a lot more, or
Mm-hmm.
sleep in non-permanent structures a lot more, and sleeping as paired with breathing. You realize these things start to kind of stack on each other actually as we go through the list. But sleeping in a house, for example, that has a lot of dust, a lot of
Mm.
mold, a lot of um, it's kind of damp, right? Those things can actually really affect your health, like in a very serious way.
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, the quality of sleep, the quality of sleep, the quality of your breath while you sleep, the quality of your nutrition before you sleep, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But incredibly important, and that's principle number two.
It's
The
huge.
amount of light that you have around you while you sleep. This has become really popular recently.
Mm.
Exposing yourself and mimicking the effect of natural light through minimizing blue light, maximizing red light, as if we were living back, in the
Red light, meaning like having a red light in your room.
oh yeah, yeah. So when the sun goes down, the idea is to stay in rhythm with nature, minimize blue light, artificial light from screens, etc., computers, TVs, etc. And any light that's used should be that of a light coming off of fire, which is red,
Mm.
which thus stays in rhythm, keeps your brain in rhythm with the cycle of the earth. And that brings me to one more thing, which is not just about quality when it comes to sleep, but also about rhythm. Not It's not necessarily that you need to go lay down 8 to 16 hours straight and sleep.
Right.
This is why um, rhythmic sleeping, if you will, right? Sleeping for 2 hours on and off, 2 hours on and off, 2 hours on, like works for some people if they're consistent with it, because it comes down to rhythm,
That's
right?
interesting.
Yeah,
I could never imagine doing that type of sleep pattern, but again, if it works for some people, I
correct.
understand it.
Takes work, right?
Yeah,
Takes
yeah,
work. Takes work. So yeah, that I think, or maybe 4 hours and you're up. There's different rhythms.
sure.
We are rhythmic creatures. So yeah, that's another one right there. Sleep. And I think it also just comes down to being cognizant
Mm,
about what it is that you are doing. Is it working for you? Are you making tweaks on it?
sure.
And really kind of taking control, taking stock of what's going on, and managing the situation to optimize it. So that's it. First is breath. Second is sleep. Number three is hydrate.
Mm,
Right, hydrate. There you go. I don't know where my water is, but hydrate. That's another really key one. If you Once you start to really steady the body, you realize most things actually move with water. Now, I hesitate to say water because it's not necessarily water as we think about water. It's not
mm,
necessarily the compound H2O.
mhm,
H2O is the most simplest one because it's neutral, etc. But uh, 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 the best form of water on Earth actually comes from fruits, right? Plants
mm,
that have purified and ionized the water for us to use. So I say hydrate and not water because the key is to hydrate. If your water isn't hydrating you, there's no point.
mm. Talk about that because I don't think people know. I mean, you've talked to me about Kangen water and distilled water, right, and those types. But like, I don't think people understand that like certain water doesn't hydrate you because there's sodium and all types of stuff in there, right?
Yeah. So again, not all water is the same. I think that's one thing a lot of people like right off the bat have to kind of get through their heads, or at least realize that not all water is the same. Right,
Mm,
the water that comes out of your tap versus the water that comes from fruits are definitely not the same. I mean, you can literally test for this. We are electric beings.
mm,
If your water cannot conduct electricity in the sense, then it's not the type of water you want. All right.
sure.
So why drink it? There's a lot of people that drink water all day that aren't necessarily hydrated. They just pee it out.
Mm,
Right. That means the water you're taking in isn't going to go do all the different things that water that needs to be done in your body. And that's the difference between drinking water and hydrated. Right. So you want to pay attention to, like, are you just buying bottled water and drinking that because that's what you have? Or do you need to make an investment into a water filtration machine? I think most people do. Just in the
mhm,
world that we live in right now, most people do not have access to pure water that hydrates them.
mm,
And there are multiple tests that you can do with your water if you just start. Again, these are the fundamentals, so we want to keep you on a high level. If you start to do your research, you'll start to find them. Look into Kangen machine. Look into not a Berkey filtration system.
mm,
Look into the difference between distilled water and tap water, right? So start to really do your work. Like, start to think about it a little bit, right? Um, One of the, again, to I mentioned oxygen advantage. Another the one that I'll mention for this is the choice is clear. The choice
mm,
is clear. It's a short little book you can check out. Choice is clear. It talks about water. Not all water is the same. And this is why I've always been such a huge proponent of um, solid food vacation with juice.
mm,
Because if you get the right organic fruits, you can get that water that hydrates at a different level, meaning it gives the body what it actually wants to do, or it allows it to do with the liquid you're putting in what it actually wants to do.
mm,
And again, it's one of, when you breathe, sleep, and hydrate at a higher level, you notice the difference.
mhm.
You
That
notice a difference.
that makes
Uh,
perfect sense, dude. It makes
yeah.
perfect sense.
So pick those things up. Again, we're just dropping the fundamentals, the basics here for you, so that you can pick up the baton and do the work for yourself, or tap in with me if you want to talk about your fundamentals, where you are, and ask some questions about your specific situation. More than happy to do that.
Sure.
Number four is sun. Number four is sun.
I love the sun. It's getting cold up here though, so
Yeah,
it's tough.
yeah. So, with globalization has brought a lot of really good things to us. Has also brought things that I think we have not adapted to
Mm,
yet. And I strongly believe that one of the things is that we are now living in places where we're not meant to live. And
mm,
and that's perhaps is hard to hear. What do you mean? My whole family lives here. X. Listen, I don't, my family, as you know, moved from Ghana, West Africa, where we've been there for generations, and ended up in Virginia. I'm telling you right now, I do not believe my family was created to live in Virginia. I just don't. I just don't. All right. I just don't. You move Cool Runnings, right? You move your family from Jamaica and you end up wherever they ended up. Where did they end up? Somewhere in New York or something?
I feel like it was somewhere cold,
Philly.
obviously,
It was
right?
cold. Yeah.
It wasn't Philly, but it was
It wasn't
somewhere.
Philly.
I feel
Okay.
like it
Somewhere
was like
cold.
it was Chicago or something like that.
Oh, even worse, right? So listen, this is not saying, blah, blah, blah. I know people are very emotional when it comes to the cities that we represent. We just started out the show talking about this. But what I'm saying is our genetic makeup leads us to be more adapted to certain situations. Now,
Mm,
can we adapt? Sure, within several generations, right?
sure.
So it might take some time. Okay. So if your family is adapted to live in Switzerland, right, Sudan might not be the best place for you.
Sure.
You see, so people would generally agree with that, but when you get somewhere in the middle, they start to get a little emotional. Let me
Mm,
say emotional, but I really believe so, and I think globalization and moving around the earth has led us to live in places that's not particularly great for our health, and we just kind of suffer through it and adapt through it. Now, well, I don't have the resources to da 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 da. Da. I get it. I get it. I'm
that's
just
why we're going
saying.
to talk wealth. That's why the wealth conversation is important.
There you go. That's right. That's right. But it's important, man. It's a really important. I just don't when 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 your pigmentation is like this, is like mine, you are adapted for sun.
Right.
Not only are you adapted for sun, your body craves sun. It took me a while to realize what was going on, right? There's a
Mm,
reason why people are taking vitamin D supplements because they're supplementing what is naturally
right. Given.
given to the
Yeah.
body by the earth. You
Yeah.
feel me? Okay.
Makes sense.
So think about this, right? If you have the ability to move places, think about where you are adapted to live, genetically speaking. Where are you adapted to live, genetically
Do you think
speaking?
people know that? Like, do you, like if you take the average person that's listening and you say, hey, like you live in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Oh, there we go, Minnesota. We both said it. You're in Minnesota, but it's not really your adaptive environment necessarily. How do you know where to go though? Like you just go, because I feel like most people think this is where I'd like to live for some form of perks, not health perks, but some job, food, family, whatever, right? I feel like that's why people move. They don't really take into account like lifestyle, living, the stuff we're talking about. So how do you get someone to see kind of where is their place, their adaptive place?
Honestly, I don't really try to get anybody to do anything. Honestly, I think that's a mistake. But I will say this: if the question comes up, right? Hey, I have a choice. I'm Somalian and I live in Minnesota.
Hmm.
I now have the resources to move somewhere else, and I have a choice between X and Y. Okay, well, if you're having the conversations with me, I might draw your attention to, brother, maybe you shouldn't move to Chicago
Hmm.
over Florida because you are of this genetic makeup.
Right.
So when that comes up, I might draw that, you might have that conversation. But I don't think a lot of people know. I don't think a lot of people think about it because they just think about where do I want to
That's
live?
right. That's right.
Right?
That's
Where
right.
do I want to live? And by the way, I'm not saying the body doesn't adapt. The body is highly adaptable.
Mhm.
Yes. But there's a reason that you are depressed in the wintertime in Minnesota. There's a
Mm.
reason for that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's not just something. And
Mhm.
can you supplement? Yes, you can supplement. But when you have a choice, right? First of all, not only are you in Minnesota, but you're also inside. So
Mhm.
even when it is sunny in Minnesota, you don't even go outside.
Right.
Right. So it's one of those things as well. You could live in Minnesota, and when the sun comes out in the summertime for 3 days, yeah, I was just playing. But you take full advantage of that and kind of stock up
Yeah.
on those biophotons for yourself so that you can go ahead and make it through another winter or so, right? But
It's
we just have to develop these not only do we force our body to adapt, but we got to think through these things as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny that you would say that bank like storing up sun. I feel like I did that this summer. I was super intentional about knowing that winter was coming, and every opportunity that I got to be outside, I went outside. If it was just to sit in the grass, if it was just to right stand and kind of like meditate a bit, like I would find every opportunity. If I had a 20-minute gap, I'd go upstairs, go outside. If the sun was out, I just like soak in the sun. So that storing it up like a bank, I think is important, man, especially for us
Absolutely.
on the East Coast, right? That winter depression is real, and it's real because you're of these changing seasons. Again, you guys have heard me champion the changing of seasons, right? Like it's a good thing, which it is. Again, for adolescent development, I believe it is. But in general, going from that summertime feel we're outside, life is good, the pools, the beach, everybody's excited, cookouts, da 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 da, to being stuck in the house. Like that quick change of like, nah, it's really too cold out now. Now we're just gonna stay in. I feel like it creates a depression.
No
Like
question.
it's such a switch. It's such a switch that it's like if you're not ready for it mentally, that's why you would fall into that depression, and that's a real thing.
No question. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely is. I think it's one that people really underestimate, right? And they think they can supplement. You realize most people are vitamin D deficient.
I've heard that.
Most people are,
Yeah.
and some try to go overboard now. But think about it, man. Your source, the quality of your source of vitamin D, if you read those papers carefully,
Mhm.
actually matters, right? It actually matters the quality of your source of vitamin D, right? Vitamin D in a pill versus vitamin D absorbed through the skin is not the same. And
Right.
also, just like anything when it comes to health, you got to use progressive overload. You can't have ancestors from Switzerland go to Florida and then think you're going to be outside all day. You got to progressively load it up
Sure.
over time. All right. And beware of that sunscreen stuff, man. Go ahead and do your research. But anyway, next one
Mm.
here. Eat. Eat. And specifically, what I mean is minerals for the body. That's what you're eating for. You're eating for minerals. And
Say that again. You're eating for minerals, right?
you're
Like,
eating from minerals, right? We are but pillars of salt. Right? We are pillars of salt. We're eating from minerals. You know, it's incredibly important that you pay attention to your genetic makeup in the sense of what did your ancestors do?
Mm.
Again, where you live, what your ancestors do. And this is something, I'm becoming more aware of this day and age, or recently. It's important to line up with what they did, because that's what you're set up to do best.
Sure.
Okay. And I'm not saying, oh man, mine says they were terrible. They ate burgers all the time. Da, 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 da. Okay, well, go one back.
Mm.
Right. Go one
Go a
back.
couple back. Go a couple back.
Go a
Like you'll
couple
find.
back.
Yeah,
Right. And they'll help lead you down where you should look. And you know, these day and age, right? You hear a lot of the extremes. You should go vegan.
Mm.
Right. You should eat no zero animal products. You should eat all animal products. I would say set those barriers, and you're probably somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Right. You're probably somewhere in the middle. And quality matters. The quality of what you're getting matters.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are where are you getting it? How fresh from the source is it? How do you prepare it? What are the other things that you eat with it? All of that enhances what you get from the minerals, or the minerals that you get from what you're consuming. And that's what you should be concerned about. See, we've turned the conversation over the years overly to calorie consumption. I don't think it's so much so calorie, because think about how long we've been focused on calories. People didn't know what calories was. It's just a concept that was developed. But if you get quality minerals in consistently, and listen, and are able to train your body so you can listen to your body and eat while you are when you need the resources, eat the right amount, right? You don't overexpand your stomach, so your body's struggling to process it, and thus is struggling to eliminate the waste as a result, and thus it takes too long and it stagnates in the stomach, and thus turns rather into a toxic material rather into minerals for the body. You do a lot better, right? So that's all I'll say right there. We could go a lot deeper there, but for the interest of time, we're going to move on.
Nutrients, minerals. That's what we're eating for. I think that's the takeaway.
That's the takeaway.
Minerals.
And follow your genetic makeup. Figure out. Talk to your family. Figure out what was it, right? And it's not too hard. It's not too hard to figure it out. Grounded. Grounded. Simply making contact with the earth, multiple surfaces, is incredibly important.
Mm.
Skin to earth contact, multiple surfaces, is very important. I want you people to think about, this is our base, literally. We are bipedal humans. I believe that's the term, right? We move on 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Our contact to Mother Earth is this 2 feet that have been deformed over time by the caskets that we put on them. right? So deformed so that it's our roots. And if we notice, most roots spread out, and they gather sensory information and they deposit, right, charged particles into the earth. It's an exchange,
Mm.
right? So when we cut that off for fear, foot gonna get cut, all this stuff is gonna happen, blah 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 blah. We cut it off. We lose something over time. Right? We lose something over time. Now, I think people should really think about this, right? When in your life, however old you are, do you consciously make contact with the earth? Like, how often do you do that in a
Mm.
day, in a month, in a year, in your lifetime? That percentage is decreasing over time.
Mhm.
So we're losing that exchange with earth. We're losing that exchange. And it's incredibly important because it leads us to have those charged particles in us. And these are the things that cause all types of issues that come up later for us. It's incredibly important that we really pay attention to this. And this is easily solved, man. It's easily solved by just taking some time each and every day to making a connection with the earth and letting our roots spread, right? From a physiological standpoint, a biological standpoint, from a chemical balance standpoint, from multiple different standpoints. It's connected. Again, well, I can't do that where I live. Well, you might live in the wrong place.
That's
I,
right.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. You might live in the wrong place. Right. Next one we have here, Mary, is movement,
Movement. So
movement.
important.
It's like a car battery that's running, right? As the car battery, I don't know too much about cars, but what I do know about cars is when the car is running, that's when the battery's charging. That's kind
Mhm.
of how movement works, right? The more we are made to be in motion, the more we move, the more we actually charge the different mechanisms in our body. The more we test our body, the more we place our body under progressive, reasonable stress,
Mm.
right? So reasonable stress, it adapts to deal with stress better. See, stress, yes, our stress in our environment has increased over time, but our ability to handle stress has also decreased. So as it's increasing, we're actually being affected by it more. You
Mm.
see that? So we're actually moving apart like this.
Mm.
Our ability to handle stress is decreasing. The amount of stress in our environment is increasing. We don't stand a chance.
Mhm.
We don't stand a chance at all. So movement is the one way that we can increase our or train our ability to handle stress mentally, physically, emotionally, and multiple different ways. Like even just something as simple as low back pain. Low back pain has developed because we went from because of if we look at our evolution, right? We now physically challenge ourselves less and less, and our back, our core, if you will, right, is getting weaker and weaker. Thus, is going to lead to a increase
Mm.
of back pain over time, and we see that in the numbers.
Yeah, and I think it's important to touch on that movement is not like lifting, right? Movement is
Doesn't
not
have
like
to be.
it doesn't have to be, right? It doesn't have to be just hitting the gym and lifting, or it doesn't have to be right any of the normal things that you think about when you think of exercise outside of like movement, but just being able to move the body,
Yeah.
right? It's incredibly important. Again, something I credit to you introducing me to it, like just every morning having some movement of my body, right? Just kind of moving the wrists and moving the arms and like movement. It's not like strenuous workout all the time. It's just I'm moving, I'm stretching, like moving the body, and I think that part's incredibly important.
Yeah. I'll summarize movement. I really don't think it's too difficult here. It's progressive overload. These are the concept. Progressive overload. It's lift, run, or lift, right?
Mm,
Locomotion, walk, run, jog, whatever.
mm,
Um, Jump, our ability to leave, and random like animal movements, our ability to respond to stimulus in our environment.
mhm,
Like so, however you get that in, that's how you get it in. That's all. So those three right there are probably all you really need. Maybe throw, right?
mm,
Something like coordination, some sort of throw, some sort of juggling or something, some sort of game. Like making these things into a game, right?
mm,
So Yeah, lifting is a very new um, activity that we
Sure,
practice,
sure.
right? A very new activity, and
For the
it's a very
masses, like for the masses.
correct.
Yeah,
I mean, lifting in general, right? If you follow the Sandos, the right of the, if you follow lifting as we know it,
yeah.
it's not that old.
Hmm.
It's not that old, right? People,
Well, like 100 years,
um,
like early
1920s,
1900s. Yeah,
maybe.
probably.
Maybe, but you're talking about people, tight shorts, no shirt, and little leather boots, doing deep knee bends, right? Or if you go to India, you got in the Hindu squats and Hindu push-ups, right? They were doing those type of stuff, so they were doing movement. But the type of lifting we do now is, I mean, I really think is pretty new. 60 years,
Hmm.
right? 80, 60 years. I mean, really, actually, probably really got popular right around just before the Arnold era.
I
The
was gonna
type
say,
of lifting you think about when you think about the gym.
yeah, the 80s, 70s, late 70s,
70s,
80s.
80s. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that makes
Yep. Yep.
sense.
Yes, yes, yes. And just like anything to balance it out, right? Eating, you also, I believe, have to practice fasting,
Mm.
going without, and giving your body a time to adjust, especially in our current society.
Hmm.
Going without, and giving your body a time to recoup, just like you sleep is really what is the counter balance. Fasting is one I talk about quite a bit. If you want more information on that, you can definitely hit me up. Pick up anyone. I think you can still pick up one of my guides online or whatnot. Message me if you can't find it. I
Yeah,
got a couple books on fasting you can pick up. And then the
yeah.
last,
But
go
I
ahead, my man.
recommend no, I recommend the fasting side. I just wanted to kind of touch on that point again. Things that you've introduced me to. Fasting is really about right dying to the flesh. It's really what it's about. It's like, hey, nothing is going to control me, right? I have control over everything, and testing out how to fast is important because you're gaining control. The people that say like I can't fast, well then something's controlling you. Like you are addicted to that thing. If you can't fast social media, you can't fast a meal, you can't fast right, you can't fast and any of those types of things, then it's controlling you. And that's what I think the power of fasting does is it checks you. And it says, okay, like I'm going to fast alcohol, I'm going to fast weed, I'm going to fast right fried food or just, food in general, right? I'm just going to be able to control my flesh a bit more. And I think that's such a powerful tool, right, mechanism that we have if people practice it.
Yeah. Yeah. To your point, man, anything you can't fast controls you.
There we go.
And it's a return to consciousness, it's a return to harmony, right? So if you're out of harmony, I think it's a transition tool to take you from being out of whack to returning you back to harmony as you would like to be. Right.
Mhm.
If you don't feel anything is wrong, if you don't, there's no force. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. But to return to consciousness, fasting is one of the quickest and most effective ways to get there in any area of life to bring back harmony. And that's why I think I forget. I have the book somewhere around here, but it's called "Feasting Your Way Back to Harmony," I believe, something like that. We'll show you one of these days. Last
Lovely.
two, last two I have here, more of because we sets us apart in terms of human beings, right? And it's kind of like a yin and yang pairing, in the sense of they go together. One will be community, or you can say love, right? Community and love, and the other is to evolve and produce. I think those are the two things that are unique to human beings in a way. Maybe not community and love, but we can read that how we will. But I
No, I
believe you
believe
need
it.
those things for health. You need those things, community and love, and you need to evolve and feel like you're making some sort of contribution to the society, making some sort of contribution outside of yourself. And all these things wrap up our top 10 principles for that we focus on here on the CTN side, on the health side of things, to focus on, to optimize for vitality, how you feel. Not necessarily. I actually got rid of longevity, my brother, because
Mm,
the way I see it, man, it's like, why live a long time if life isn't good?
that's right.
And if life is good, you are going to live a long time, right?
That's
Or
right.
as long as is appropriate for you,
Sure.
right? So
Sure.
I just actually simplified it to vitality, right? Like vibrant, living to the fullest, performance, right? Getting things done like you want to get it done, and aesthetics, man. Look all of those things. If your roots are right, the flower is going to look fantastic, right?
Mm.
So those are the 10 principles right there. Those are the 10
Run
principles of
back,
basic.
run back through the 10 really quick, just so
Okay,
everyone
okay.
has a
Let's
list.
start here. We'll go with breath at the top here. Sleep, hydrate, sun, eat for minerals, right? Ground with Mother Earth, movement, fasting, community and love, and then evolve and produce, right? Evolve and produce. And those are it right there.
That's huge, man. Even on the back end of those, the evolve, I used to say it's about growth, right? Same word, evolve, growth. Like that's a human need. Like we need to grow, like as humans. And then same thing, love, community, connection. That's really what it is. We need these things. We need these things.
Need
And
them.
yeah, and oftentimes, again, we don't know that we need them. But again, these 10 things, we're going to have to do a part two. We're going to dive into part two next week, where we'll dive into some more of the wealth fundamentals. But today, this list of 10 on the health side of things, you guys can take with you, apply, reach out to Kabi if you need more information on any of them. If something didn't make sense, reach out, get clarification, do your own research, dive in. But these things are incredibly important. Again, like we started the show with, the 20% of things that do 80% of the work for you. That's what those 10 things are. And I appreciate that list, because again, it keeps you calibrated, gets you something to focus on. So pay attention to it, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, we'll come back and we'll have the conversation around wealth fundamentals.
That's right. That's right.
Take us
Appreciate
home.
that, brother. Thank you. Thank you guys for joining us today. Hopefully, you got something that you can take away. Make sure you tap in, share this episode with somebody that might get something out of it, or they might just be triggered by it. Because either way, we love them still. And until next time, we'll see you next week on another episode of Good Life. Until next time, peace.
Later, guys.